I tell the guys, we're thin but mighty. Anybody that's ever asked about our program over the last few years, I've been saying the same thing. And
Princeton's always been a tough football team. You know, one thing about us is we're going to play tough. We love to hit. You know, hitting is like preached, and it's like the gospel in Princeton.
I don't want to have all these rules and all these things that you got to try and memorize. Just the word all in. All in.
Football is one of the greatest sports in the world.
It was certainly emotional, no doubt about it. It always is between us and Ocean City.
I don't like losing. The kids don't like losing. And I don't want to lose to the same team over and over and over again. We want to win a state championship.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Cal 101 right here on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me today is Ocean City head coach Sean Matthews as we roll on with our 2025 high school football season previews throughout the summer. Coach, nice to talk to you. You know, first time on the program, taking over as the head coach of the Red Raiders this coming fall. We'll start right there. What's this whole process been like for you? You know, now stepping into the head coaching role as compared to last year. I can only imagine the last 6+ months for you have been quite the whirlwind.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nick. You know, appreciate what you do locally. You know, shouting out the teams here. This is awesome stuff. Good publicity for a great game. Being the head coach, man, it's you know, you're drinking water from the fire hose, as I'm sure you've heard people say. You know, you're getting hit with something new every single day. Sometimes you're prepared for it. Sometimes you're not, and you just got to roll with the punches. And the thing that I've learned is just, you know, get your hands dirty, jump in there, get after it, and, you know, good things will happen and you'll figure things out. But, you know, working under, you know, Coach Smith for the past 13 years, he was great. He was influential. And, you know, luckily I've been in the district, in the building. You know, I kind of, you know, seamlessly have, you know, inserted myself, and it's going really well.
I was actually just about to ask you that about your transition into this role. Was this something when you were approached about when Coach Smith obviously said he was stepping down as the head coach? Was this something for you where it was like instant yes, or did you have to think about it a little bit? But you know, being there for, you know, as you just mentioned, 13 years, I would imagine you're just like, absolutely, you know, let's dive in with both feet here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's something that I've always, you know, wanted to do. When I met Coach Smith 13 years ago, that I told him, you know, hey, this is one of my goals, is to become a head coach. But before, you know, I dove in completely. You know, I had to make sure I ran it by the general at home, ran it by the wife, made sure my wife Katie was on board with it. You know, she's awesome. She's super supportive. And you know, once I got the okay from her, we knew it was the right move for us. You know, our family specifically, and you know, yeah, we're ready to rock, man. So it's been great.
What's been the support been like? You know, you just mentioned your wife and your family, you know, again, clear with them first, and all of a sudden, you know, this is the right decision. What's that support system been like for you, knowing that this is especially, you know, these days with high school football, you know, how it relates to the college game and how everything kind of trickles down now with, you know, the transfer portal, the age of social media, obviously NIL is making its way into high school as we speak over the last couple of years. New era to be a head coach, certainly compared to even just 10 years ago, you know, or over 10 years ago when you started coaching football under Coach Smith. What's the support system been like for you, from your family, and I guess the school and the administration in totality?
Support's been great, you know. So starting with the community. I mean, I've been here for 13 years, so I've coached, you know, cousins of players, siblings of players. Like people kind of know who I am and what I'm about. And it's supportive. And, you know, when you're the assistant coach, you know, you're everybody's favorite person. And then once you get into that leadership position, you know, people look at you a little differently, and, you know, people may not agree with what you say and what you do all the time. And, you know, they might not be afraid to share that. So I am everyone's favorite person right now until I'm not, you know, so, you know, those things will come and go. You know, I'm not too worried about that now. Administration's been great. You know, I was able to propose and direct and write a strength and speed development curriculum for our health and physical education classes. So the administration team here at Ocean City High School, the school board, they approved it. So our student athletes next year are going to have the opportunity to weight train, speed train all year round, you know, during the school day. So, you know, it's, you know, we don't have a facility like they would in like Texas, you know, nowhere near anything like that. But with the way our school day works and our schedule, we're getting similar, type of exposure during the school day with our student athletes. So it's really going to be a benefit to have, players on the football team year round, lifting, in season, out of season, during the school day. And then that frees up, the hours after school a little bit. We don't have to be so strict on those, lifts after school. We can have some more flexibility to work on speed development and making sure kids are, participating in other sports here at the high school, having a positive impact, on the whole school culture, from an athletic standpoint. So community's been great. Administration's been great. We haven't got the game won yet, though. So it's a good start.
Being the head coach now, especially as I alluded to before with these days, you're almost in that CEO type of role. And what you just brought up about, this new strength and conditioning type of curriculum with speed training as well. Is that something, if you were the defensive coordinator for the last 8 years, is that something that you would have maybe brought to the table as an assistant coach, or now that you're in this head coaching role, you're like, okay, these bigger programs and these generalized programs, as I said, at de facto CEO, is that what allowed you to do that this year as compared to maybe before, or is that something you still would have tried to pursue anyway?
I mean, again, man, I was lucky. This stuff, the off-season training and the speed development stuff, along with Coach Smith, I had a heavy influence on things. So, some things he was like, yeah, absolutely do it. Some things he was like, no. And now, I pretty much get to say yes to whatever I want to try and do, in the off season. So, obviously heavy input from our assistant coaches. But again, man, I was lucky. The transition, it worked as seamlessly, as it can. I mean, there's definitely changes. We're doing things differently in certain areas. But for the most part, it's going to be a good transition, and things are going to go quickly and smoothly.
Just real quick on last season, just to recap 2024, you guys go 6-5, made it to the sectional semifinals, lost to eventual sectional champion Somerville, who made it over to the state semifinals just last year. Really good football team. But I'm looking at your season in totality last year. The past couple of years have been, I would say, up and down, but again, some good playoff runs mixed in between as well. When you end last season, tough loss on the road, all the way up in North Jersey, what's the message to the kids that are coming back, and how do you basically reacclimate them to, all right, now we have to shift our focus to 2025? Because numerous coaches I've talked to, a lot of them are like, all right, week off, then we're back to it. Others take a little bit more time off, kind of decompress. What was your guys' approach following last year's playoff exit?
Yeah, so usually we give ourselves about 3 to 4 weeks removed from the season to kind of decompress, tie things up, as far as end of the year evaluations of the kids, coaches, individual meetings with the players, and then we have that team meeting right before we leave, for Christmas break, and making sure everybody's on the right page, and hey, when we get back, it's back to business, and things are going to have to, pick up. But yeah, I mean, last year, if you look at our final record, we were 6-5. It's mediocre. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you are what your record says you are. We were in position in a lot of games where they were tight. They were awesome games, competitive. We played our butts off. The other team played great, and we ended up on the wrong side of the scoreboard. So we have to do a better job, in situations, focusing on making those important plays in the important situations when stuff matters. We were fourth in our division, not great, not good, a very competitive division. With that being said, we lose 15 seniors. 5 of those seniors are going on to compete in college, whether it's playing football, wrestling, or, competing, in baseball. And then another thing that people don't really see, this senior class as freshmen, they won 2 games as a freshman program. Mm-hmm. So to go from winning 2 games as freshmen to qualifying for the playoffs each year of their varsity, seasons, sophomore, junior, and senior year, and then, almost, basically doubling our win total from junior year to senior year. Some see that as a success, and it's certainly a good, spring and jump, into this upcoming season.
I like hearing that. So we'll dive into 2025 and preview some of the guys coming back and what the schedule entails in just a second. Take a quick break here on Cal 101 right here on Cape Atlantic Live.
This broadcast is brought to you by Harbor Jiu-Jitsu. Located in Egg Harbor Township, Harbor Jiu-Jitsu is more than just training. Both adults and kids can gain practical skills that give you real confidence, build physical and mental resilience, and you can join a team that's here to help you grow. Featuring no-gi, gi, wrestling, and MMA classes. Harbor Jiu-Jitsu is the most dynamic gym in South Jersey. For more information, check out harborjiujitsu.com.
Looking at 2025, Coach, got a lot of guys back, and I think you just alluded to it with the freshmen now going into their senior year. This has been a class that's seen a lot of development, a lot of ups and downs with the program. Namely, some seniors like Clay Compton and Tristan Schmidt in the backfield. I know we were talking before the show about TJ Santarpio at wide receiver, Ryan Hendricks, but sophomore quarterback Jackson Becker, stepping up this year. What do you make of the offense? Again, a lot of guys coming back, a lot of experience. How do you see this side of the ball unfolding here this fall?
I mean, at Ocean City, we're always going to gravitate, and our offensive life is going to revolve around the offensive line. You just named some great skilled players there. They always get their names in the paper, but we come and go as our offensive line comes and goes. So, we're only returning 2 out of the 5 offensive linemen back from last year's team. We lost, 3 good seniors that were 3-year starters that are going to be really difficult to replace. The good thing is, we have a great system of developing offensive line here. I mean, we got a great offensive line coach in Coach Keating. He does a great job working with the old guys, young guys. I mean, we have 3 to 4 position coaches just dedicated to the offensive line. So, if kids aren't necessarily playing a lot of varsity football, they're getting coached a lot in practice throughout the season of their sophomore and junior years, developing and learning how to do things the right way. The biggest thing that we need to address and run quickly and make sure we get better at is the O-line. We do have some great pieces that are going to be moving into those starting roles, and there's competition there, no doubt. So it's going to be a interesting battle to watch throughout the summer, June, July, August, and then to see who comes out on top. The cream will usually rise there. Tight end, H-back. You mentioned TJ Santarpio. He's a pretty explosive kid once we get the ball in his hand. We ask him to do a lot. He motions, he shifts. He's in a 2-point stance, wrapping to the linebackers on counter. He's running RPOs. He puts his hand in the ground in 3-point stance. He's down blocking 5 techniques. So he's a great piece to have back. He's almost like an offensive lineman too. We ask him to do a lot. And then we have another 2 guys back, Aiden Majors and Jake Chapman back. They're H-back types, tight end types. So, they're definitely exciting pieces to have, and we'll be able to do some different things with those guys as well.
I was going to say, when you mentioned that offensive line cohesion, it's a little bit more difficult because you mentioned there's only 2 guys that were starting last year that are back this year. How do you fill in those gaps? Do you lean on your 2 returning stars to say, here's how we do things and how we're going to bring you along throughout the summer? You mentioned already a lot of depth for a lot of competition this summer. Do you start mixing and matching combinations or different positions? How do you get that cohesion to build over the next 2 months?
Yeah, I mean, we lean heavily on the seniors. That's a clear message that was, expressed to the kids in our team meetings throughout the off season and this past week. If you're a senior, you're going to be the guy that drives the bus. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of pressure on those guys. There's a lot of demand on them, as far as, just doing things the right way, leading from the front, being the first in line for drills, and then making sure that, you're bringing your teammates on the same path of success. Ricky Kane, our starting left tackle, and then Eric Reef, our starting left guard. They're 2 3-year starters. So they played a lot of varsity football for us. So they're going to have to make sure that they develop and grow more in that leadership role than they have in the past. We had a Clifford Dirks, a Luke Holmes, and Anthony Gasparovich, the guys that have graduated. Those were the guys that we leaned on and put a ton of responsibility on. Well, now that's shifted to the young guys. And then, how do you get those other guys ready? I mean, it's the development that they've already, been a part of, in their 2 or 3 previous years of high school. I mean, again, these guys have been coached. It's not like they've been sitting around watching other guys play football, while they haven't gotten varsity reps. I mean, they're going to get a ton of, opportunities this summer to prove themselves. And how do you prove yourself? You're at every single summer workout. You're giving maximum effort. And then if you get put in for a team rep or a group rep, you know what you're doing. You're making sure that you understand snap counts, who you're responsible for on your blocking assignments and rules, and most importantly, you're executing them as well.
Mm-hmm. We'll switch over to the defensive side of things. You said there were 7 of 11 starters back this coming season. So clearly experience is going to be there for 2025, and you pride yourselves in the offensive line. I would imagine it's the same on the defensive line as well. What can you say about your defense this fall?
Experienced, and we're going to be very, very explosive getting to the ball. You know what I mean? Like we have, as coaches, we talk about being relentless. We definitely preach that style of defense, getting to the football, making sure that, you know where you're supposed to be before the ball snap, pre-snap alignment, assignment, your eye discipline, making sure that you're looking in the right spots to put yourself in the best possible situation to make plays on defense once the ball snapped. So, defensive line, we are replacing, 3 starters, 3 seniors that graduated. Again, Clifford Dirks, he was an awesome wrestler, which I'm sure you're familiar with. He's, he's a kid we're sorely going to miss. Anthony Gasparovich, same name. Justin McCormick was a senior that started on the D-line for us. But, as the year went, we're playing Somerville in the playoffs. We have 3 sophomores starting on defense. We got Joey Pankos at outside linebacker, Jake Chapman at defensive end, and Mikey Davis at a defensive end. So, good young pieces. And then we've got seniors that have sat behind great players like Tommy Grimley. We got a kid, Aiden Majors. He's going to be a senior. In my individual meeting with him, he says he wants to have more tackles than Tommy. So that's a great bar to set because, he was our leading tackler. He was a first team all conference kid. And if we can replace one all conference kid with another, we'll be in good shape there. Cole Destacino's back at free safety. Our kids, man, they dictate the coverages. Like they do a lot of, coaching on Friday night. Like they see a certain set that the offense lines up in. Cole makes that check. You know what I mean? So we had him there last year as a junior doing that. We don't expect to miss a beat with him coming back as a senior. So, Ryan Hendricks, he's going to be playing offense. He's going to be our boundary corner. So a lot of times he gets paired up against the other team's best receiver, and we're going to ask him to play man sometimes, and he's got to be able to run one-on-one, and most importantly, win one-on-one. So he'll be a 3-year starter coming back as a senior that we're going to lean heavily on. And then, man, in camp, you always have guys surprise you. They're names that you don't hear and know about, but the coaches, we're always talking about them. So we're definitely encouraged by some of those names that, maybe Nick Kosko doesn't know about, but Coach Matthews knows, Coach Eisenstein knows, Coach Haratopoulos knows. We know these guys, and we're excited to see them step up and do some great things.
Well, I hope I start hearing of them once we get closer to the season. That means they really stepped up. I'm interested about your defensive approach, considering that was your unit that you coached up and you led over the last near decade. Does anything change with that now, knowing that you are in the head coaching role, so you're overseeing the entire operation, or are you going to lean more on your assistant coaches moving forward? I guess this fall and beyond.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I learned from Coach Smith is, if you got good coaches, you better let them coach, or else they're going to go somewhere else and coach. So, our coaching staff, man, we have 5 former head coaches on our staff, and we have, guys that have played in the SEC, the Big Ten, NFL vets. We have a freshman coach that's been a coach for over 20 years. So, if you're at Ocean City, man, you're around football coaches, you're going to get coached well. So Coach Haratopoulos is going to take over on defense. He was the head coach at Absegami for a couple of years, and he was also the defensive coordinator there for a long time. Him and I are going to work very closely together. And in addition to that, we have Mike Eisenstein. He was the defensive coordinator at Atlantic City for over 30 years. He's vital in our game plans and assisting. Our D-line coach, Fran Simpson, was a D-line coach at Paulsboro under Glenn Howard for, over 30 years. I mean, there's a lot of experience and wealth on the defensive side of the ball to, take over what I did. It's not, it ain't one person. It's really, really a team effort, and all those guys that I just named, like, they're going to be fine. We're gonna be in good positions on Friday night to play good defense.
Love to hear it. So you guys do open up the season at Battle of the Beach, of course, on your home turf against Oakcrest on August 28th. I believe the game's at 1 p.m., so it's the second game of the day. Anything else with the schedule this year? Do you have the same schedule as last year, just flipped, or is there any other tidbits that we should know going into the fall?
Yeah, everything's been flipped. So homes go to away, aways go to homes. The schedule's awesome. You know what I mean? The best part about it is, man, it's tough local rivalry teams. Like, I know that can kind of be like a downside of the West Jersey League, but our schedule, we kind of lucked out. We're playing the toughest teams in our area, and the coaches and the kids, most importantly, the kids love it. You know what I mean? Like, they're playing, against the same kids that they grew up with in midget ball, pound ball, and then, you see that, the progress over years. Like, all right, who's getting better? Maybe, the Upper Township Indians, they lost to the Galloway Renegades, or they lost to, like, somebody on our schedule, like the Linwood. And then now suddenly you get to play them when they're at Mainland. Like, and you get to see, how things have changed and who's gotten better and who's not. But it's a great schedule, man. It's super competitive. It's local. Every single game is a tough game. There's nobody on our schedule where it's like, maybe we can worry about doing, we can work on something offensively that maybe we're not so good at against these guys. No, it's like you got to bring your A game every single week. And that's what football should be, man. We're excited. It's awesome.
I love that you brought up the local rivalries. Of course, anybody who knows about South Jersey football, at least in this area, they know Ocean City, Mainland. They know rivalries like Mainland AC, you guys in AC, and just I think even Pleasantville back in the day too, with the Thanksgiving game. When as I haven't heard your thoughts on it before, I mean, I can only imagine what you're going to say. Of course, I'm sure it's the same as other Ocean City people. But your take on the rivalry with Mainland, of course, they've had a lot of success over the last couple of years. Of course, state title 2 years ago, and getting back to the state championship just last season. Does a program like that, although there's a lot of battles on the field, you want to beat them every year, but does a program like that give you maybe a little bit more motivation? It's like, hey, that program down the street's doing that, and we can easily do that as well and make it that far as well.
Yes and no. I mean, the most important thing you got to focus on, you got to build your own house. You know what I mean? You got to start with the foundation and build up. I'm not really worried about what they're doing over there over the bridge. It is what you think it is. They don't like us. We don't like them. It's awesome that our kids like genuinely don't like each other. And I'm like, it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and don't get it twisted, man. Like, we respect the hell out of those guys. Like, Coach Smith does a great job, and those kids are tough. You know what I mean? Like, they're well coached. They got great ball players over there, and so do we. So, hey, man, let's strap it up and play the game. And that's what sports should be about. It's fun. It's good for both towns. It's good for the schools. It's good for the student body. It's awesome. You know what I mean? It's great high school football, great competition. And we look forward to every Friday night when we get to play. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, I'm already getting jazzed up for that game. I was looking ahead to the schedule. I believe that game is in October 2nd. I believe you guys are actually hosting this year, so it should be a nice atmosphere. I'll leave you here with this one, Coach. And again, I appreciate your time today. I ask every coach about a motto or a phrase or even a singular word that really stands out, that maybe describes the team or something that the kids buy into. Some schools stick to the same one pretty much every year, or they change it every year. Is there something that describes your team here in 2025? Others don't even know if they have one yet, but what really stands out about your team, maybe in terms of I know when I was playing at EHT, there was our phrase one year was all in, and then the other one was next man up. So stuff like that. What's your do you guys have one yet, or you have one for every year? What's that like for you at Ocean City?
We do. Everything that a team does that's going to be worth accomplishing and great, it's got to be done together. You know what I mean? It's not one person. It's not one player. I'm a true believer. I don't care if a kid plays 60 snaps a game or they play 1 snap a game. If it's your turn and it's your shot, you got to be all in and you got to execute and do your job. And that's only done together. Some days coaches have bad games. We make bad calls and make bad decisions. Players can make up for that. All right. And sometimes, hey, our players aren't having the best day, and the coaches back them up and put them in better positions to help them get through and survive and just, do our best with what we're experiencing on that night. But yeah, our one word that, ties everything together within our program is together. Our parents, our community, our administration, our coaches, our players, we got to be together. Nobody's going to do it alone. Nobody's going to do it by themselves. So everybody's got to be in it all together. Get it done.
Need that printed on a T-shirt for sure. Coach, I appreciate your time. Good luck this season. Looking forward to catching up with you down the line, and of course, as the season progresses, and everyone's going to circle the big game against Mainland. Of course, that's must-see TV here in South Jersey. But again, you guys open up with Oak Crest, the local, another local team here with the Cape Atlantic League tradition on August 28th at Battle of the Beach on your home turf right at Cary Stadium. So again, good luck this year, and appreciate your time today.
Thanks again, Nick. Appreciate you, man.
This is Cal One-on-One presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service right here on Cape Atlantic Live. Be sure to check out the rest of the YouTube channel for the rest of our podcast series detailing the 2025 high school football season. We'll see you next time.